Hello and welcome. This tutorial is all about dynamic link library. I will explain what is a DLL, how to create a DLL file using Visual Studio, how to export the functions from a DLL file, how to use the exported functions into my application, and how to link the DLL application using Visual Studio. So let's see what is a DLL. DLL is a dynamic link library. Dynamic link library is a collection of code and data which can be used by application. This application is used by the end user. Let's say a vendor has written a code to calculate the greatest of two numbers, but he doesn't want to sell you his lines of code. Then how can you use that function into your application? The vendor is not ready to give his code, but he is ready to give you a library file, and in the library file the code what he has written will calculate the greatest of two numbers. So you will get a library file from the vendor, and that library file you can use it in your application. You can link it to your application, and whenever you pass two values a and b, or suppose 10 and 20, this library will contain the function how to calculate the greatest of 10 and 20, and he will return you the greatest number, that is 20. Then the end user will see what is the greatest of two number, 10 and 20. So this is a very small example what I have given. So the basic concept of DLL is the same. Now let's go to an example how to create a dynamic link library. So here I will write a function to calculate the factorial of a given number. This number I will take as a parameter, and this function will calculate the factorial of the number and return back to the client, to the application. Let's say it returns the value after calculating the factorial. Control KF is used to format. It will align the functions. Just select and say Control KF. So this function will it will calculate the factorial of the given number inum, and this is the value. What is the result? This is the resultant value. This is the factorial. It will return to the calling function. One most important thing what we have to do here, that we have to export this function calculate factorial. Unless and until we export this function, we cannot make use of this function in the library using our client project. So to export a function, we use DLL export, that is Microsoft specific keyword. Suppose you have n number of functions other than this calculate factorial. You have some 4 or 5 more functions, and you want to export all the functions whatever is in the my class. Then no need to write one by one declaration specific DLL export before every function. You can just directly export the class itself. So this thing you can declare here, and whatever functions, public functions will be there in the class, all the functions will be exported, and a lib file and a .dll file will be generated. Let's compile this and see. So at this location, the DLL is generated. We can see that we have got two files, basically a DLL file and a lib file. Both are having the same name. The lib file contains the address of the functions which are in there in the DLL, and this lib file we can link in our client project, that is in our application project. Let's see how we can link it. For that we are going to create one application. There we have our main file. Okay, so to link the DLL, the lib file, what is generated here from this project, we have to do some kind of settings in the Visual Studio. We can load the DLL in two ways. We have something called implicit linking and explicit linking. I will explain the other way in my next tutorial, that is explicit linking. We can use a function called load library to get the address of the exported function. That I will explain later. Right now I will go with a simple technique how to link using Visual Studio. So in the properties we have to do some kind of settings. Just right click on the application, because this application you are going to link it to your DLL, so that the application can use all the exported functions from the main function. So go to the properties. Here in the VC++ directories, you need to add the include directories. So we are going to include the header file what we created in the DLL. So we can give relative path. Just go up. Okay. So this is the place where my header file and CPP is there. If we say OK, we will be able to include the header file of the DLL. So basically this is what we have created. Here in this path we have created a function that will calculate the factorial of the given number and it will return the result. So I am going to use this function from our main. Then let's see how to link the library. In the library directories we have to give which directory is containing the library. So here is my lib. Let's see, DLL call debug. We have the lib here. So the same path we have set in the VC++ library directories. Okay. And here in the linker input we need to give the library name. So the library name is DLL call.lib. Now let's create an instance of this class. And here you can call the function. Suppose we want to create the factorial of 5 and we are going to print it out. Or let's say we will get it from the user itself. Enum we will declare now. Okay. So let's see what is happening. It says the program cannot start because the DLL is missing from the computer. It means uh, my application expects the DLL to be in the same place as the exe. So if we copy this DLL to the exe location to this location, my work will be done. But what if I change some code again in my DLL project? Every time I need to go and manually copy it. So let's give a post build event in the DLL project itself. You need to understand how it works, what is the output directory and what is the configuration. So the place where it generates the DLL depends on these settings. Output directory, solution directory, configuration. Solution directory means where the .sln file is there. So .sln file, solution file will be created here where your VCX project is there. So inside this solution directory, we will have a configuration folder, that is the debug configuration. Right now I have created the project in the debug mode. So solution directory configuration means configuration is active, debug. So inside this folder he will create debug folder, and inside this here is the SLN. So in this is the place where is the solution located, and inside this he will create a debug folder, and here my .dll and .lib will be generated. And the name is decided by configuration project name .dll. So project name is DLL call and .dll. .dll is my DLL. So we have got DLL call .dll here. So we need to copy this DLL whenever we complete the build. This DLL should be copied to my .exe folder, whichever is my application. So how to do that? Let's see. So this is the source place, and so this DLL will be copied to the target location. I want to copy it to my .exe, this folder. We can give the relative path also. Right now I'm just giving the absolute path. So to this folder, this DLL will be copied. Now when I build it, it will say one file copied. When we go to our .exe path, we will see that the DLL is copied here. Now when I will run my application, it will load the DLL and it will run. Let's see what is happening. It created an instance of my DLL. So this is the new what is happening there. Okay, so this is some assembly code. No need to check it out. Now it asks the user to enter a number for which he wants to calculate the factorial. So I want to get the factorial of suppose 6, and I'll say enter. Now it will calculate the factorial. The number is 6. We'll go inside this function. So 6 comes here and it calculates the factorial. Finally the factorial is 720. So the factorial of 6 is 720. This will be returned here, and the same will be printed on the console. The factorial of 6 is 720. Like this we can check something more, some more numbers. Let's say 3. So the factorial of 3 is 6. So this is the way how our DLL works. So whatever the functionality is there, how to calculate the factorial is inside the .dll file. The client doesn't know how we are creating, how the function is implemented. Client just knows that we have an exported function that is calculate factorial, and it requires a parameter number, and it will return the factorial. So client is supposed to do only this, and the DLL is doing the main job. So suppose if we don't want to sell the line of code, what exactly is happening in my function, I will just give the .dll file to the client, and he can make use of the function, and my work is done. So this is the basic concept of how to use a DLL, how to link a DLL, how to export the function from a DLL file, how we can use the exported function into my application, and how to link the DLL to an application using Visual Studio. In my next tutorial, I will show you how to use a DLL, how to load a DLL using load library function and using function pointer. Till then, thanks a lot. Please leave comments.